Thanks for making it to Veterans Daily. We are glad you made it. We got some really great information we want to share with you today, kind of some little digging behind the scenes, finding out the things that are really driving you nuts and what you can do to kind of circumvent some of that nuttiness along the way with your VA claim, and some of the tools out there, right, that you can utilize so you can make, as Clay likes to talk about, that educated move, right? You're doing things from an educated perspective with regard to your VA claim. It's necessary, right? Otherwise, you're blindfolded throwing darts, and that's never any fun. So I'm not going to take the glory away from Clay because he did come up with the list, and I think it's a great one. I'm actually really excited about this one, Clay. So for those of you watching, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and that's really it. The two asks are, look, hit the thumbs up, let the video run if you have the ability to. I get it. Everybody has a short, fast food kind of mindset where it's just like that. But if you have the ability to, it really helps to push this out to more of us, and together we can actually make impactful changes. So with that, Clay, please let us know what we have on the agenda today, sir.
All right. So Jason likes to throw shade at me whenever I pick bad topics, and then he likes to compliment me when I pick big, good topics. So to give it back, just so everyone knows, I am totally in charge of picking all the topics, which is a heavy burden. I make all the thumbnails, do all the clips. Jason just talks to a camera, and that's it. No, I'm kidding. Okay.
So you're welcome, Clay. You're welcome.
All right. So today's
I bring the beard.
You do bring the beard. Mine, this is like 2 years going. It's the best I got. But today's topic is extremely important, and it's one of the most common questions that we probably both get. I see across all platforms, Reddit, Facebook, YouTube, is requesting documents that veterans need. So your C file, your rating code sheet for static and non-static, your CMP exams, and of course, the elusive medical records from your military service. We're going to answer all of those questions all in this video. So just kind of grab hold because it's a ton of information. And starting with your C file, before we start with how you go about requesting it, because requesting it's the easy part, I really want to talk to you, Jason. I want your thoughts on why would a veteran want their C file, which stands for claims file. Why would a veteran want their claims file to begin with?
Well, the first thing, Clay, that comes to mind for me, right, is as you're looking through now, okay, there's a lot to unfold in that question. Okay, so I would say most people, I'll just go in the top kind of two things that I think people want that for. Okay. Number one is people are trying to find out their status of their condition. Am I considered static or not? And that is in there in the code sheet, right? So in your rating code sheet, we'll do that. So that's one reason why people often are trying to find out or trying to get their C file, is so they can figure that out. It takes a while to get your information sometimes from the VA. A faster version, to be honest, is just, you don't always need it, right? You can go down to your accredited rep who has a PIV card. It's like a little CAC card with a computer chip. They remote desktop into the VA system for you. They can go right to that and say, this condition static, this one, this one, this one, this one, and these three are not. And you can get that in that visit. So don't sit around waiting if that's the only thing you're doing. Now, if you want to start getting kind of how Clay would get, if he was back at the beginning and got denied some things and is just really kind of trying to figure out, one, denials and maybe back date, pay, all the stuff regarding your claims, right? Whether is my back pay correct? Is my evidence in line with the rating that they got me? Did they deny me erroneously? Let me see what information they had and what I can work from that. And in some cases, you'll be able to read in there the potential for other claims that you could potentially file for, just based on them mentioning certain things regarding your conditions that you may have that you might not even have filed for. I know that sounds confusing. There's a lot of information, and if you start reading through it with the mindset of really uncovering, did they do their job right? And is there any room for increases or potential secondary conditions or other service-connected conditions that I missed, and really sit there. This is really kind of the clay world, to be honest with you. You need to have that mindset of, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to dig through this, and then I'm going to flip over to the M21. I'm going to go to the CFR, and I'm going to bounce back and forth between these three things and make notes. And I mean, it's not a pleasant process. I will tell you, it is time consuming and detail oriented. So have that in mind. Or you can work with an accredited rep and have the conversation, and hopefully you guys together can formulate a plan. I think sometimes, Clay, and I'm going to kick it to you, I think sometimes too much information becomes overwhelming, and a veteran can just get lost in this toilet bowl of a circle. And I think that sometimes you're better to take a little bit of a step back, look in at a few segmented specific things, and work on the how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time instead of here's your elephant, right? Because that is literally here's your elephant, have fun. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your question is absolutely the question that really resonates with your own personal story, I think. So I'd love to hear you incorporate a little bit of that and what you did when you went crazy, that the VA wasn't kind of doing what they were supposed to, and you went down that educate yourself road.
Yeah, so I'll definitely get on that. And you bring up really, really good points, especially on the back pay. That's not something I initially considered whenever I was doing the topics for this one. But back pay is absolutely huge. But really, there's one, if I could narrow it down to one reason why a veteran would even want their C file, their claims file, is because you're fighting appeals specifically. Pretty much what happens when a veteran is denied, they're going to submit a higher level review or supplemental claim. Very rarely will they go to the board, but a lot of people do. It's definitely not the majority. However, if you don't have your C file, literally you're fighting blind. If someone told you to do a boxing match, except for you had to put a blindfold on and then you had to box, some boxer who's been boxing for 20 years, you're not going to win that fight. That's essentially what submitting an appeal without your claims file is, because you don't know what the VA is looking at. You don't know what the VA is missing unless you have it yourself. I can't tell you how many times people say, I don't have the in-service event, but I thought I went to, I saw the doc when I was in service. They request their C file and they see, hey, in 2006, I went to go see, during my post-deployment health assessment, I had a complaint about migraines. Boom, it's there. All of a sudden you have the in-service event and you can point to it. You can show the VA. That is going to be a game changer for your claim. So most people who want a C file are going to be for appeals. Stop fighting blind. It's just not, it's kind of like going to court without evidence is what submitting an appeal is without your C file. You're never going to do it. Now, can you submit an appeal without your C file? Absolutely. It's not a requirement. However, having your evidence in front of you is going to set you up for success generally. The second thing is, and I'm glad you brought that up, Jason, is back pay. And this is one of the main reasons I'm a big fan of accredited attorneys as well, because one of their, not only do they win appeals for you, they also look at your entire C file. That's an advantage of a lawyer and a disadvantage of a claims company. The claims company, as you state, Jason, will figure you out. A lawyer will also figure you out. They'll look at your appeals and they'll have your C file and say, hey, in 1984, this should have happened. It didn't. And if that can rate back pay, I've seen back pay personally. I've seen a check for a direct deposit amount of $173,000. That's the highest that I've seen. But I've heard some enormous, like $600,000 back pay. Can you imagine getting a check for just $100,000? Right, just 50. We'll just say 50. Imagine getting a $50,000 check. You're already 100% P&T. You had your C file. You saw something. You talked to a accredited lawyer, and now you have $50,000 in your account, which, by the way, is not taxable. You can go ahead and do whatever you want. Going back to a previous video that Jason and I did, especially with David Piatek, right? Can veterans that are 100% actually use that back pay for something good? And I'll go ahead and leave that live below for you if you're in that sphere of, hey, I don't want to live paycheck to paycheck. But back on the C-file route, man, it's absolutely critical. And then I'll go ahead and talk about my personal story as well. So I did not request my C-file until I was 100% P&T. That's the second person that would want to request their C-file. So 1, you're fighting appeals. 2, you're 100% P&T, request your C-file, save it, store it, do whatever. Don't touch it until you have to. You're probably not going to, but it's good to have. And the reason is because just in case for me, and I have some appeals, well, I have some denied claims that I could appeal. There's really no benefit for me to do it, at least not yet. If that ever changes, I have the C-file, I can do it. But for me, Jason, whenever I believe I got 70% out of the gate, maybe 80, I can't really remember, back in 2019. And then I just saw, the VSO was helpful, but not what he had said bothered me. All right. And he was like, hey, you're already 70%. You should be happy with that. And I was like, hey, you're not wrong, but that sounds weird. And so that put me, this is pretty YouTube, pretty me knowing anything. That just put me in a mindset of, hey, let me just look into this. Now, spoiler here, I have a super obsessive personality. Okay. And so when I start something, I am like, if I do something, I am there. I'm 100% there. That's a blessing and a curse, by the way. But for this, it was definitely a blessing because then I found out what 38 CFR was. I watched a few Combat Craig videos, found out what 38 CFR, that led me to a Reddit called Veterans Benefits, found out what the M21 TAC one is, reading that. And a caveat here, in my job in the military for psychological operations, a lot of that is reading policy and authorities and just really bland government policy. It's the worst thing to read ever, but I got really good at reading it. And it's understanding how even how paragraphs are structured within the federal government is just a game changer. So reading M21 just came easy. And that pretty much went down a very obsessive rabbit hole. And I was like, hey, that's not right. Let me go ahead and correct that. And that's what I mean by being educate yourself. I'm not saying you have to read M21 TAC 1. YouTube will do that for you. Okay. Jason and myself, literally everyone else. But that's pretty much what started the YouTube journey. And then eventually I remember commenting on one of your videos, Jason. I was like, hey, I would love to do a video on, I think it was the PLUS Act and the GUARD Act. And we were going to talk about it. And then you had responded and was like, you were like, hey, good idea. Why don't we just do a channel? And I was like, oh, dude, that's a really good idea. So boom, here's Veterans Daily. And that's what we got. But that's really the C-file. There are so many things in the C-file. So everything we're going to talk about, so rating code sheets, C&P exams, your service treatment records are in the C-file. C-file takes, the going rate is about 6 to 9 months. It's going to come to you in a CD, which stands for compact disc, which is just hilarious to me. And I remember a meme of Kim Jong-un. This was like, I don't know, 2016-ish time frame. Do you know what memes are, Jason? Is that
pretty funny to you? Yeah. My birthday is this month, so.
Oh, right. Okay. But it was a meme of Kim Jong-un holding up a CD. And it was like, with this technology, we'll defeat the United States of America, right? But anyways, it's going to come to you in a CD. It takes 6 to 9 months. And if you request anything within the C-file, it's going to be much faster. So if you want your whole C-file plan, I would plan for 9 months personally before you can even look at your C-file. And yeah, that's the C-file, Jason. Did that spark any thoughts for you?
Yeah. So thanks for saying that story. I really appreciate it because it does highlight the fact of being prepared to take on the VA with your claim. And it's much better to do it from a position of power versus a reactionary sort of a way. So do it before you really need it versus, after it's too late. So when you're talking about preparing for an appeal, I'm going to kind of clarify a little bit for folks. Most of us, even me, I do it all the time too. Clay does it. Everybody does it. Most people say appeal. And when we say appeal, we're encapsulating higher level review, supplemental, and the Board of Appeals, right? Really, just the Board of Appeals is an appeal. The other two are decision review options. Okay, so the VA denied you or gave you some sort of an unfavorable sort of a decision, and now you want to either do a decision review, higher level review, or a supplemental claim, or you want to push it straight to the board and have the board look at it as an appeal. So those are your options. Usually when you hear us, anybody pretty much on YouTube saying appeal, we mean kind of any of those options, because you can select any one of the three right out the gate. It used to be, back in the day, you had to go through the process before you could actually be denied, then finally you could push it to the board. Now you can go straight to the board if you want. Not usually suggested, but you could. Now, with that part out of the way, you have a year from that unfavorable decision, whether it was a low rating or a denial or whatever it was. You have a year to elect that decision review or appeal. Well, like Clay said, if it takes you 9 months to get your C file, you better be Johnny or Janie on the spot and order it like as soon as the next day you get that denial or low rating, unfavorable decision results. Next day, you should be ordering your C file then. It will help you know what the VA had as far as the evidence is concerned. Now, granted, you should know what was submitted. So there's that. But this will give you an opportunity to also read into the C&P exam and see what kind of things contradicted each other or what have you. And in some cases, if it was a denial, most likely the like 1,000%, pretty close to that anyway, is the C&P examiner saying that it's not service connected for whatever reason. If they say it's service connected, you would be probably most likely service connected. It's just that you don't know what your rating is going to be. So it could be a lower rating than what you expected. In any case, you will see what the VA has on your file. You're going to go through it. And if this all played out correctly, you filed a higher level review. And this is the part that gets a little bit tricky, because you don't really know what evidence you have to work with until you get your C file. So if you file a higher level review, right, and you order your C file, right, you have 12 months to file your decision review. So now you get your C file in. Let's say it took 9 months. That means you have 3 months left to file your decision review or appeal. So now you're flipping through everything. And then if you notice, hey, here's that piece that totally whatever changes my rating from a denial to a rating to a service connection, or from a low rating to from a 30% to a 50%. Here it is right here, page 74, whatever, right? Now you know exactly where to find it. Makes it super easy, because now you know I can file a higher level review, check the box that says that you want an informal conference. You actually have a conversation with somebody. So you could say, look on page 74, or however you can designate wherever that is. Hey, I ordered my C file. I got it. I'm looking in whatever, and in the stack, here it is. It has this on it, whatever. And so this kind of is the evidence that's needed in order to bring us in line with the 50% rating. Just not sure why we're at 30 if I should be at 50. Or I'm not sure why I was denied. It clearly shows here that, I'm service connected because I had a diagnosis and service that somehow you missed, right? I don't care that the doctor is saying that. Maybe I forgot to mention it. Maybe the C&P examiner didn't say I was, but I clearly have medical evidence from my time in service that I didn't mention in my C&P because I figured you guys had it. And, nobody does a CMP exactly perfect. You're going to forget something. You're going to miss something, so it's not unheard of that that's a scenario that wouldn't happen. It definitely could. So you'd be able to point it out to that higher level reviewer and hopefully get them to overturn it. Now, what's the worst case scenario in this? The worst case scenario is I ordered my C file, it didn't show up. And now I'm on month 11 and a half. Oh, damn, I need to file something. And I don't really have time to go run and get more evidence for my supplemental. That's a stressful situation. So I would say, and I say this all the time, and I say it this way because it really is. Treat this like a million or multi-million-dollar deal, because it is. If I were in the situation of filing a claim, I get my results back and it's unfavorable for whatever reason, Clay, whatever reason, unfavorable, I'm going to do something, I just don't know what, and I order my C file, cool, I would still go and start building more evidence based on whatever I got in my decision letter, why they denied me. I would start building more evidence on that, order my C file in the meantime. And if that shows up, cool. And if it doesn't show up, I'm still building more evidence because this is just me personally. I would probably never file a higher level review. I would just go straight to supplemental claim. Let me double down on the evidence that you're missing. I know it's already in there, and I'll resubmit that along with a 4138 explaining that it's on that page in there. And I would go get more evidence, doubling down on whatever that was from my doctor as new evidence. And if I need to write another statement myself, I'll do another statement. If I need another buddy statement, I'll go get another one. And I would file all of that and do that. I would be working on all that while I'm waiting for my C file. And then if I get my C file, cool. I'll be able to just dig through that, and I'd write another 4138 explaining that I ordered my C file, and in my C file it says right here and I would put that in there too, and then bam, I would submit that. If I got my C file in time, I'd have that extra one in there, and if not, then I would file it like it is and go from there. Your thoughts, Clay?
Yeah, I mean, evidence-based claim. I'm going to say something that probably people are going to disagree with, but I don't care. I have never seen a veteran who submitted the in-service event, so evidence from service, and a current chronic diagnosis. I've never seen someone submit those and be denied.
Right.
I've never seen it. What I have seen is people who, had a back injury in 1984. They never went to medical for it. It's 2024. They just got diagnosed for their back, and now they want that to be service connected. I've seen that be denied probably more than anything. It's because they don't have the in-service event, right? The evidence-based claim. Go ahead.
Check this out. Marine Corps, 81 millimeter mortars, jack my back up because it's the Marine Corps and you're doing 25-mile hump with, 81s. So my back gets tweaked, and it was pretty tweaked. And I'm like bracing my knees against the sink, to brush my teeth because I'm like going to fall over because I can't hold myself up as I'm bending forward, just the pain and nerves and everything. So they send me to something called, this is way before your time there, Clay. They send me to something called back school. What back school is physical therapy. So they send me to physical therapy, documented in service, physical therapy for my back. They give me Percocet and they give me Flexerol, painkiller and muscle relaxer. And I'm on that for like a few weeks, right? All that's documented. I get out of the service, right? File my claim, and I have my C&P exam, I don't know, within 3 months of discharge. Denied, not service connected.
What was that in the 90s?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's why. Things change.
VA, people say the VA sucks now. In the 90s, it was much worse. In the 70s, it basically didn't even exist.
It didn't even exist. Right. Yeah. No, totally.
But I will say one that sucks, but the VA has gotten a lot better now.
Are you talking about like in the 2000s, like the 2010s and up? The teens?
Yeah, I would say,
back at your time frame. Yeah.
Yes.
Got it.
The GWAT era is the golden child of veterans. I'm sorry for being so great, okay, and fighting all these wars. No, I'm kidding.
Right.
But the VA
everybody
has
else
gotten
got
a lot better. Yeah.
See, what happened was everybody else got to take all the suck out of the VA for you, so that way it'd be an easier process. See.
You know,
That's good.
Jason and myself always say that the VA is what it is today, and we have the benefits that we have because of that Vietnam era,
Oh yeah.
specifically Vietnam, without a doubt. Anything on top of that is just kind of in addition to. But yeah, so if you're a Vietnam veteran, one, welcome home, and thank you for your service, and thank you for literally everything that we have today. But back on your comment, Jason, you went to service. That would be in your C file. So let's say it's today, you were denied, you submit that C file, boom, you can say, hey, in 1990, whatever it was, I, went to physical
96.
therapy. Yeah, I was 4 years old, Jason. The last thing I'll say about C file, and then we'll move on, is just what the form is. So here it is. You can Google VAC file. This will pop up, and it's right here. It is VA form 10206, or most noted as a FOIA. Okay, Freedom of Information Act. It tells you what it is, all this stuff, and then it tells you how to send this in. There's the address. Boom, you got to mail it or fax it. I don't know if people have fax machines. I'd bet my life that you got a fax machine, Jason. Sorry, that's another.
It came with my printer. I mean, it's a 4-in-1. It's not my fault they still include that.
You do have one, okay. But this is just a form. I'm not going to go through the form. It's a lot of PII up here, your section requests. You just fill this out and then submit it as stated here on the first page, and that's it. Submitting the FOIA request, super easy. Just fill it out like a job application, turn it in, call it a day. It's going to take 6 to 9 months, that I can tell you. I think the shortest one I've seen was 5 months long. But that's the C file. The claims file, that's the mamma jamma of all the...
How do you spell that?
Mamma jamma? I don't know. MAMMA-JAMMA. Mamma jamma. But, okay, that's the C file. Now, what I do want to talk about are things within the C file that you can request much, much, much faster. I've seen a rating code sheet come back in 2 days. I've also seen it come back in 30 days. Okay, so there's really no rhyme or reason. It's definitely dependent on your regional office, and that's a whole other topic on how regional offices just kind of do whatever they want. I mean, that would be the easiest way to explain it. But the rating code sheet, and this one has a very specific reason on why you would want that. Jason, you had brought it up, so I'm going to kick this to you. But when it comes to static and non-static conditions that are in the rating code sheet, why would a veteran even want to know if their conditions are static or non-static? And it will say non-static in there.
Yeah. So I'll try to say this as non-nuancy as possible, which is always a funny situation. Things that seem so cut and dry are still need like explanation. So for those of you out there that go, man, you talk a lot. I talk a lot because you may already understand most of this or all of it. To somebody who's never heard this before, they are saying thank you. So just remember that. I'm not doing it to just hear myself. Believe me.
There's a veteran born every single day. Every single day someone gets out of the military. So
that's right. Probably even more than one, Clay.
Oh, it's thousands. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just say. So, all right. So why do you want to know? The obvious answer is, well, in order to be 100%, you need to have all your conditions static. Most of that information's out there now, thanks to people like us pushing out the fact that that's what makes you permanent and total. What if you're not going to be permanent and total ever? What if you're never going to be 100%? Why is it so important? Because of that whole fear factor thing out there about poking the bear, right? The chances of the VA really giving anything about your condition that's static is this much. The VA has given up. It's the VA's verbiage of, we've given up on you with that condition. It's never going to get any better. And it's so much so not going to get better that it's probably going to get worse. And oh, by the way, we're never going to have a future exam for that condition, which means that if they don't have a future exam, they're not going to have the information needed to reduce you. I hope that makes sense. So in order to reduce you, they have to have the burden of proof that your condition has gotten better. right? And in some cases, like after the 5-year period, it needs to be substantially better, but not just one kind of visit, but like multiple visits in order to really solidify the fact that you're magically healed. So the big piece here, I think, when you talk about static and non-static conditions is what does that mean to the veteran? It means that if you're static, there's no future exam. What does it mean if you don't have a future exam? Well, that means that the VA is not going to reduce you based on their own information of future exams because there is none. So that's important. On your journey to 100%, absolutely, it's needed. You must have your conditions to be static. So, Clay, now, unless you want anything to add on to that piece, cool, do that. But also, I want to hear from you. What can you do if you have 2, 3, 5 conditions that aren't static?
Yeah, this is the most important topic, in my opinion, of this video. Is if you have a condition that's not static, what are you going to do about it? First, find out if it's static, and that's what Jason just explained with the rating code sheet. Second, if you are 100% and you're not static, let's say you have mental health at 100% by itself, generally not static. It can be. I have a friend who has 100% P&T just from mental health and SMCT. I said that weird. He's on SMCT, right? He's jacked up. But going back, let's say you have 100% rating for mental health. It's not P&T. What do you need to do? First off, and I'm going to use mental health as the example because that's what I see most common. This works for any condition that's not static. There's only one answer, Jason. It's medical evidence, and it's current medical evidence. Service connection's already there. You don't have to worry about what happened in the military. You don't even have to worry about what happened 6 months ago. It is right now. Right now. There is going to be a routine future exam RFE. Side note, it'll be in your decision letter. People ask all the time, when's my RFE? Just look at that. Just tells me you did not read your decision letter because it's in there. It says routine future exam, and that's generally going to be between 2 to 5 years if you do not prompt the VA to do it sooner. So for instance, for me, my mental health was not static when I left the Marine Corps. I had submitted, I forgot exactly what I submitted. I think it was my lower back, and then they added radiculopathy, whatever the track was. I had prompted the VA to look at my claims again. My mental health was not static. It was like a year and a half in at that point. And then all of a sudden I get a CMP exam for mental health. And I'm like, shit, like that was me. I didn't know the rating code sheet then. I didn't know any of this. And so luckily I've been in and out of therapy. I don't want to go TMI on this. I've been in and out of treatment since 2014. That was in service from 19 to probably about 2 years ago. I was regularly seeing treatment, taking medication, doing all the things. Now I kind of, that's the TMI part. I don't seek treatment anymore. I go a more, we'll call it godly counseling. That's something else. But I had the evidence, okay? And so when that routine future exam happened, I already had the evidence. And so I went to the CMP exam and I was like, hey, I've been seeing my psychiatrist. I'm on this medication. Here's what's going on. Blah, 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 blah. Boom. The rating went 70 non-static to 70 static. Boom. And so the reason why I say that is because that was just luck of the draw. Okay. Had I been lazy, had I been, busy at work and not went to treatment, then all of a sudden the only evidence I have is that CMP examiner. And I'm telling you, you're going to lose that fight 9 out of 10 times. And so get the evidence. To answer your question, I'm going to put it as simply as I can without explaining a story, which is what I usually do. What do you do if your condition's not static? You go get medical evidence. And hey, let's just, the elephant in the room is, well, what if your condition got better? Well, then you don't lie. Your condition got better. But more than likely, okay, your condition's going to get worse. Especially, you'll see a lot of non-static conditions in that transition period of service. So when you leave service to 1 to 2 years out, a lot of non-static conditions will happen there. because you're going through, you'll see on your diagnosis, adjustment disorder for mental health and all of that stuff. So you're going through this huge adjustment period, and the VA kind of expects your life to get better after you leave service. You find, your home roots, you get a job, whatever the heck's going on. And so that's why you'll see a lot of non-static conditions. Now, generally speaking, your musculoskeletal conditions, so your back, your knees, I've never seen a non-static musculoskeletal condition, even to this day,
Right.
ever. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm just saying I've never seen one. And so it's really going to be your mental health ratings, right? GERD. So ratings where medications can, I don't want to use the word heal, but
Alleviate symptoms.
alleviate, subsidize, manage those types of conditions. So mental health, GERD, IBS would be one, migraines would be one. All of those
Cancer.
cancer is never going to be your. That sucks, right? Whenever you're in remission, that's gonna you're gonna be reevaluated based on your current symptoms. So when I say go get medical evidence, it's not, hey doc, in the service XYZ. That doesn't matter.
Right.
You're already service connected. It's, hey doc, here's what's going on right now. I don't have GERD, right? But if I did, I would say, hey, I get extreme heartburn. My food feels like it's right here in my throat. Whatever the heck's going on with your GERD, maybe that's leading to sleep apnea. Just spill the beans is really what you need to do. You have a service-connected disability that is not static. I'm going to VA healthcare or private healthcare, and I'm spilling the beans. And that I was going to pass it to you real quick, Jason, but I want to talk about private healthcare real quick. So the VA has your VA records. Duh. The VA does not have your private records. And
Right.
sometimes what you'll see is a routine future exam. And in some conditions, the VA will just straight up propose a reduction. There's a lot of nuances and factors that go into that. And I've generally seen that more so on private evidence side. Why? Because the VA does not have your private records. So let's just say in my scenario, instead of seeing the VA for healthcare, I was seeing private healthcare. It's my responsibility, you the veteran, not the VA, to get your private records and then give them to the VA, or have the VA get your private records themselves. I don't recommend that personally. I want to be in control of timeliness, right? I know in 6 days I can get my private records and submit them to the VA. I have no idea how long it's going to take the VA to do that. And so when it's private, I like to be in control. When it's federal records, like service treatment records, VA medical records, the VA is going to be able to pull those easier than you are. There we go. Evidence, man. It all goes. I can't tell you how many videos Jason and I have where the answer is just evidence. It's medical evidence. But did that spark any thoughts for you, Jason?
Yeah. So I got chickens doing crazy chicken things.
Nice.
So you might hear it in the background. Hopefully that'll stop. So yes. And here's the thing is that with your condition that's not static, there are ways in which you can eliminate that future exam. One is by proving that it's been 5 years of consistent level of impairment, right?
Mhm.
So because of my crazy chickens, Clay, I'm going to kick it back to you to talk about a couple other ways and how people can incorporate that. If you know those off the top of your head, or at least a few of them, on what folks can do to secure a non-future exam based on like the 55-year rule, that type of stuff.
Yeah, so you have your rules. I'm glad you brought that up because the 5-year rule, the 5, 10, and the 20-year rule, those years are there for a reason. So the 5-year rule is the VA is a specific phrase. It's basically your lifestyle is based on that VA rating, right? So let's say you're at 90%. It's mental health. If it's 50% of that, 5 years go by, the VA deems, hey, this veteran's lifestyle is ingrained in that rating. Therefore, if we're going to schedule a C&P exam to reevaluate, not necessarily reduce, to reevaluate, we got to have some evidence. Before 5 years, it's free game. Okay, that is the most. There's kind of a scale of like, hey, this really sucks, to okay, we're safe, and safe is a little, we'll get there. We'll get there. At that 5 year or prior to 5 years, you're not safe. You're not safe at all. That is the most.
Yeah, and that's what you were bringing
yeah.
up right earlier when you said the 3 to 5 year, 2 to 5 year time period is typically when people are going to see their future exam on their decision letter, right? That it's going to happen within that time frame. So the 5 year rule is basically that your condition has been the same for 5 years. I haven't gotten any better, and so here we are. And so typically, if you can show the VA up front with your claim that you had over 5 years of this has sucked for this long anyway, they may just give you a static condition right out the gate for that condition. So use GERD for an example, right? So gastroesophageal reflux disease, right? So if you had it for 10 years and you have all the documentation in there, you have your doctor write a letter explaining that it's been this severe for that amount of time, the VA may give you a static rating for that condition because you've proven that, and they will not have that future exam. If you got diagnosed 2 years ago, got rated, they're not going to do that. They're going to go, we still got 3 years to kind of figure this out, see if it gets better with some treatment, that type of stuff. And then they may have that future exam. The 10 year, since you brought it up, the 10-year rule, just so we don't leave people hanging since we threw out numbers, the 10-year rule preserves your service connection. Okay, so 5 year is no future exam, and they all kind of mesh together in a weird way. The 10-year preserves your service connection. They will not sever your service connection. You can always be service connected for that. But if you magically heal, they'll lower you to the lowest rating possible. If you just, hey, I'm healed, right? I can walk now, or whatever it is. So, but they will never sever the connection. Okay, you'll always be service connected. The 20-year is they will not sever the rating that's been in place for 20 years. Okay, so if you were rated at 50% for migraines for 20 years, your 50% for migraines will never go away. And fraud is the one exception on this stuff. If you were rated 30% for migraines for 10 years, then got increased to 50 for 10 years, sure, you've been rated for migraines for 20, but you've only been 50 for 10 years of that. You've been 30 or higher for 20, so they're going to lock in your 30 and say you'll never be reduced lower than 30 until you hit that 20 years of being rated at 50. Then they'll go ahead and upgrade that. I think that a big point here, Clay, is for folks, because we're talking about being static or not having future exams, meaning that you're essentially static, is the VA typically will not magically just change things for you because they have some magic light that's going off going, hey, it's been 5 years and there's nothing. Oh, let's change them to static. No, they're pushed on to the next claim with 1,000 claims in front of or behind that. So they're not going back in time to look at things on their own. Okay. So you, like I had to, I'll just tell my quick story, Clay, then I'll kick it back to you for the next stage here. My quick story version is I filed a bunch of different claims like a lot of people, slowly built up. Then I got to 100% not permanent in total. I had one condition that had a future exam, and in fact, it was GERD. Okay, so that one that had that future exam barred me from being permanent in total. However, I had an appeal with the board, so a real appeal. I had an appeal with the board for migraines, for an increase to go from 30 to 50. The board ruled in my favor. Once they did that, my 50 for migraines bounced me to 100 of all static, and I no longer needed GERD. GERD could be 0, doesn't matter. So now I had all static conditions. I had to reach out to the VA and say, hey, VA, over here, all my conditions are static up to 100%. I don't need GERD. You can make that a 0. I don't care. Make me permanent and total. So they made me permanent and total. Obviously, they didn't go, well, we're going to take away your GERD. You know, that's not how they do it. But so they eliminated a future exam for GERD because it doesn't change my overall rating. So because I'm 100% permanent and total with or without GERD, they're like, why are we going to waste time and resources to do a future exam for you if it doesn't change the overall? Another thing that they'll always do static or do no future exam is if you're the lowest rating on the scale. So if the lowest rating's at 10%, they just go no future exam because you're service connected already. You can't be lower than 10 if 10 is the lowest. So, and they're not going to take away your service connection. So they're like, well, why would we re-examine you? We can't make you any lower than this. Back to you, Clay.
Yeah. Jason, I actually think we should end it there. I know we have a hard stop today. What we can do is I'm going to make a note of the next two, which are C&P exam results and STRs, service treatment records. We can do those next week. And yeah, pretty much the claim file, which honestly, we could have had this whole episode be the claim file. There is so many things in the claim file. And if you're wondering what's in it, here's the answer. Every single thing the VA looked at to make the decision, everything will be in there. That's your claims file. That's what it's for.
Wait, you mean the video surveillance tapes from me walking from my car to inside the building are going to be in that file, Clay?
I would assume they didn't look at those whenever you're doing that. What Jason's referencing is the most recent fraud case. I forgot the gentleman's name, but he was acting like he had paralysis, and then he would, in his car, drive normal, went to the gym, was posting on Instagram, Facebook about all this heavy weights he's lifting, get to the VA, pull out his wheelchair, and all of a sudden his legs don't work. That's paraphrased. It was much more than that. But yeah, I would hope the video surveillance isn't in there. I don't think you can upload videos to a CD anyways. I don't know. But yes, everything you need, and that rating code sheet. If you're not 100%, absolutely. If you're not PNT, excuse me. If you are not PNT, there is no reason you should not request your C file and then your rating code sheet. Your rating code sheet will be in your C file. There's no reason not to do it. Right? You're fighting blind. Stop fighting blind. Just go for it. And next week, we'll have to talk about C&P exam results, which is going to be a huge one. And then your service treatment records, with so many veterans, myself included, wanted my service treatment records. And it's like finding a needle in a haystack is what requesting your service treatment records are like. But Jason, that's all I have. You have any parting shots? And then we'll give the, if we help each other, something's good.
That's right. That's right. You're so good at it, Clay. You're hired. So I don't have anything to add. I think that this is a great topic. Like you said, we could have, went much deeper into this stuff. High level overview gives you some real good points in order to look at and be aware of, and set yourself up for success. Really, it all comes down to having the knowledge, educating yourself, and executing appropriately with medical evidence, right, Clay? So with that, thank you guys so much for watching. We really do appreciate you so very much. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.
There it is, buddy.